Let's move on to our third main topic today. Chris, what is our third main topic today?
This topic's from Carter. Did you see Edward Norton's retort to Spielberg's argument that Netflix is destroying movies, claiming movie theaters themselves are actually the primary culprit due to subpar projection and sound quality? Do you agree with him? How do you feel about Edward Norton's thoughts?
Well, first of all, the one thing that Edward Norton, I'll just tell you right now, the one thing that Edward Norton, who I have met on several occasions, I really like Edward Norton, but the one thing that he's completely wrong on is to think that Steven Spielberg is completely wrong. Partially wrong, maybe. It's not an either or. This is a situation where there are multiple culprits. It's not just one thing. But Edward Norton does bring up something very, very valid. Now, for those of you who don't know what he's talking about, this is a comment Edward Norton made talking about what is hurting the movie-going experience. And he doesn't think it's that, this, or the other thing. He thinks it's the movie theaters themselves. And Edward Norton says this, and he raises an interesting issue. He says this: it's the theater chains that are destroying the theatrical experience. Period. Full stop. No one else. I disagree with that. I think there are several things, but he raises a good point here. I want people to literally walk into their theater and find the manager and say, if this looks dark, you're giving me my money back because I am paying, and at the ArcLight, I'm paying a premium for a premium experience. Now, in the fuller context, so we don't have room here to give you the full quote, he's talking about how a lot of the movie theaters, they will purposefully not project the movies at their full intended brightness because bulbs are expensive. And he talks about how in a lot of movie theaters, including premium ones, they will purposefully ratchet down the brightness of the bulbs to about 60% of what they're supposed to be. So that way they get longer life out of the bulbs, so it's cheaper for the movie theaters. However, it creates a less positive experience for the audience being in there who paid money to go see something we can't get at home. I don't care how good you think your TV at home is. I've got a great one too. I don't care how good you think it is. When a projector in a real theater is being projected the way it should on the size of a screen, your cute, adorable little 80-inch TV, on a real screen, there's nothing like it. But Edward Norton pointed out that that's what we're supposed to get at the movie theater. We're supposed to get something that we cannot get at home. But when movie theaters are purposefully doing something with their sound that makes it easier and cheaper for them, dimming the lights and bringing down the brightness of an image to make it dimmer than it's supposed to be and all that kind of stuff. All while, as Edward Norton points out, we're paying you a premium price, and the ArcLight Cinema in Hollywood does cost a premium. It's an expensive theater to go to. There are other expensive theaters to go to as well. When you're paying a premium price to go and sit down and watch a movie for a couple hours, they have an onus on them to give you the best experience and viewing experience that you possibly can. And Rob, I remember this jumped out at me when I read Norton's comments because I remember thinking, this isn't the first time I've heard about this. I've heard somebody else quite versed in the world of entertainment talking about this very same thing, and his name is Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett. So Rob, you know, does Edward Norton have a point here with what he's saying?
Well, absolutely. I think one of the things that is problematic about movie exhibition now, theater exhibition, is they used to be union jobs. We had union projectionists who were well-versed in, they kept the lights bright. The problem with going into projectors, movie theater projectors, is the bulbs are very expensive.
Yeah.
You have to have bright bulbs, and the thing is, they're very easy to turn down the brightness levels to save on bulbs. And when you have a multiplex that's, say, 16 theaters deep, those bulbs get expensive. And so if you can stretch out the life of those bulbs by dimming the light in the projectors, so most people don't notice. I went and saw Captain Marvel in 3 different theaters in LA, and the experiences were very different. I saw a very dim image in one of my favorite theaters, and I did go up and complain. And it's amazing to me because people just don't know. We don't have, like, they're not going around and checking, at least here in the ArcLight, we have the ArcLight theater chain in LA, there are ushers that actually watch the screen for the first 5 minutes to see if everything is okay. And we don't get a lot of that. And when you move out of the big cities, certainly people don't know what they're getting. That's why, John, when we go to your beloved Dolby Theater at the AMC 16, it's an incredible experience.
Yeah.
And you know when you go in there, the picture and the sound, I mean, Joker was phenomenal in that theater. And it's because they know you're paying a little bit more, but it's worth it. And you're getting that experience. And when you don't get that at the movie theater, why go?
You know, and I have had I've had those experiences where I've been in a theater and I'm like, this picture is dim. It's dim. And so I can speak to that now. Thankfully, in a lot of theaters I go to right now, like I like going to the primes and things like that. Usually they do deliver that prime experience, but I've been in those theaters. Chris, have you had that sort of experience, and have you noticed this to be a problem?
I've had a film straight up just completely out of focus. I've just gone in and what is this? Are you drunk? What happened to the projectioner? But I don't think, like you were saying, I don't think it's an either or situation of Spielberg's it's all the streaming and Norton's it's all the theaters themselves. I think there's some nuance here. There's some other stuff we can talk about, some minutia about why, you know, the film industry is changing. And mostly it's the nature of technology. Technology changes, we all change with it. Adapt or perish, you know? And you do need to talk to people about the quality of your cinema, obviously. If you're going into a place like me that they've completely outfocused their projection, or if it's really, really dark, yeah, feel free to go talk to somebody. You are paying for a service. Make sure you're nice about it, though. Don't storm up to somebody, because that's kind of the tone of Edward's thing there, isn't it? Is like, march up to that manager. Be nice, be kind.
Yes,
in
be
whatever
nice
you do.
Like, go and express,
Yeah.
hey, if this isn't a premium picture, I'm going to ask for my money back.
Yeah.
But be kind about it, yeah.
But there's
Absolutely.
also, you know, there's nobody at theaters necessarily that can fix the problem.
That's true.
When you're going up and talking to a manager, and there's so much automation in theaters now that sometimes things are beyond fixing, at least until the next show, and it's problematic.
But then fix it for the next show.
Yeah.
Like, lay the groundwork. And, you know, there is more than that. Look, the movie-going experience has to be a great experience. Mm-hmm. I'm going to disagree with Edward Norton when he says, this is the only problem, period, end, stop.
Yeah.
No, it's not. There's also the systemic problem of the cost of going to the movies these days. It's getting very, very expensive. And that is directly connected to how expensive making the movies is becoming, or artificially becoming. That's another thing. Don't tell me it's not part of the thing. They advertise the movie starts at 7 o'clock. Oh, look, it started at 7:35. You know, there are all these things like these. People got to start looking at holistically. Somebody's just going to come into our facility for 2 hours and just sit in a chair, and they're giving us upwards of $20 for that privilege of just walking into our facility and just sitting in a chair for $20. It is beholden on us then, if I'm a theater owner, to fucking give them the best experience they can have. For that $20, I don't even have to do anything. I just got to lay out the carpet and they're just going to come and sit down. Give them the best experience possible. Absolutely. Make sure your damn lights are on. Make sure the brightness of the picture is up. Don't start a movie 30 minutes after you tell them it's going to start. Don't make it cost prohibitive for people not just to go to the movies, but to develop the habit of going to the movies. I remember my dad, when I was a kid, he would take me to Toronto Maple Leaf hockey games, right? And we would go to a couple games a year, and I loved it. Problem is, hockey in Toronto is so psychotically expensive that eventually it became way too expensive that we could go with any sort of regular basis. And here's what happened. You are now starting to not price out people coming today, you're pricing out people developing habits with them and their kids of going, because we can't make that a thing. I grew up going to hockey games. My kid's not going to grow up going to hockey games, not if I live in the Toronto area. It's a holistic problem, and they need to address it, and I'm glad Ed Norton brought this up, because more people need to be talking about this. Holistically, brightness of the projections, quality of sound, starting the damn movie on time, how much does it cost to actually go, all the conveniences of it. This has got to start being talked about more, and it's not. Steven Spielberg's right. There's external stuff as well, but don't let that distract us from just the plain movie-going experience itself. It needs to be improved, and I'm glad Edward Norton brought that up. Guys, what do you think about Ed Norton's comments on that? Jump down to the comments section below and let us know what you think. All right.